Whitetail Addictions. The hunt is on. There's no going back now. It's in your blood. A primal need that must be met. It drives you. It consumes you. It takes you to the edge. What was once a simple pastime has now become your addiction. This season, come share the excitement with a group of fellow whitetail addicts from Lone Wolf. Learn from their time-tested techniques, as well as their mistakes, and be there to experience firsthand the highs and the lows we've all come to thrive on. They are do-it-yourselfers just like you. Their season begins the moment the last one ends. And when it comes time to release an arrow, they come up big. This is Lone Wolf's Whitetail Addictions. This week on Whitetail Addictions, we're heading to the farm country and the heart of big buck country, southern Illinois, to meet up with two die-hard whitetail addicts, Bill Dawson and Jim Deppe. These guys are no strangers to giant whitetails, and this week, you are going to see each of their 2-year quests for a couple of the biggest bucks of the season, right here on Whitetail Addictions. Bill Dawson lives in the small town of New Athens, a community virtually surrounded by vast fields of corn and soybeans, and home to some big bucks. Bill makes his living working as a carpenter, but when he hangs up his tool belt, he and his father spend every available minute in search of their next giant whitetail.
Well, I first got into hunting. My dad got me into hunting. He was a big-time trapper. It was like a way of life around my house. He took me squirrel hunting when I was 7 years old and killed my first turkey at 12. And at the age of 13, I started hunting for whitetails with my gun. And I killed a couple does my first year and a little small buck the next. And my third year hunting, I killed a 200 gross 15-pointer. When I was 15, I started bow hunting. And I didn't get anything that first year, but the next year, I killed 3. And ever since then, it's just kind of come natural to me. I've killed several nice bucks since then with a bow. Well, we started filming hunts in '99. I bought a home video camera and we killed 3 deer that first year on tape. And ever since then, we've just been doing it faithfully every year, and we don't even want to go into the woods anymore without a camera. Being a carpenter, I get to spend quite a few days out in the field, so I get all kinds of time off during the winter, and there's even been times when I've quit a job just to hunt a particular buck, and I know that's not a very good thing, but that's just the way it is. It'd be the end of the world to me if I couldn't bow hunt anymore for whitetails. It's just, I love it so much. It's my life.
Welcome back to Whitetail Addictions.
It was the summer of '06 when we first got on this deer. He was coming out to a bean field faithfully every night, and we went in and hung our stands. It was October 14th, and man, we got on him the first night.
I put my 20 on him. It was probably a little bit further. I hit him low, but it probably got caught alone, don't you think?
I'm not sure. We'll have to watch the tape.
I think I can see my ear all bloody sitting down on my ears. Oh, that was a monster.
It sure was.
Oh, man. I hope we get him.
Well, it didn't go as planned. I hit him really low. I think I lowered my bow down when I shot to try to look at the arrow, and I hit him too low, and I never seen the deer the rest of the year. I thought he ran off and died and we couldn't find him. We looked everywhere. And my friend ended up finding his sheds in January. That's when I knew he was still there. This summer, we just happened to drive by there one evening and I seen him out there. He was with four other bucks. One of them was an old deer, 8 or 9 year old buck that we've been watching for years. We knew right where he was. We went in there the very first night of bow season. It was October 1st. Had him 20 yards from us. Camera battery went dead. We couldn't shoot him. He turned around and walked away. Well, it was the morning of October 29th. Cameraman Chris and I, we slipped into the same set that we had that buck within bow range on the first morning. And we had a few does come by. It wasn't a real productive morning, and I decided to hit the horns together. I hit them horns together and he came charging in with about 3 or 4 other does.
Bill knows this is truly a world-class whitetail. And as the giant moves around his stand within bow range, all Bill can do is pray for a clear shot at the monster buck.
Well, that buck came in, and he was chasing does around, scent checking them. We had does totally covered around us. They were snorting at us, and I thought it was going to happen. I mean, we had him within bow range 5 or 6 times that morning. I just couldn't get a clear shot, and he wouldn't stop, and I wasn't going to take a bad shot on a buck like that. And, well, he ended up running off with the does, and I was just upset. I couldn't even explain it. I mean, I knew that was my last chance at him. I mean, it was the end of October. I knew he was going to leave that little woods I was hunting, and it was only a 40-acre woods. And I just knew that was my last chance at him.
Yeah, we almost got him. That's the 3rd time we've hunted this stand. And that's the 2nd time we've seen this buck out of this stand. Just in 3 hunts. He was 40 yards. I didn't have a clear shot. He's a monster. We've been hunting him for 2 years.
Well, it was Halloween night. I just got off work. My dad called me up. He said, "Man, you better get in there and you better hunt that deer tonight." He said, "That deer's not going to be there in a couple days." So that's what I did. Well, I went in there and I had no cameraman. He couldn't get off work that day, so I actually hunted in his stand that night. The stands were set together, and he had clear shots every other day out of his, so I sat in his stand that night, and probably wasn't sitting there 15 minutes. I had 3 3.5-year-old bucks come underneath of me, chasing the hot doe around. Out of nowhere, here he comes with his head down, charging in. He goes through my shooting lane at 30 yards. I ranged him, stood on one leg. I had to push a limb down with one leg so I could shoot over top of it. And he passed right through my lane. I shot him and I hit him pretty good. It was back just a little far, so I decided to wait till the next day to go in after him. And I had to go to work the next day. It was just a necessity. So I had my dad went in there and found him. He found him dead within probably 200 yards of my stand. And called me up. He said, "Congratulations, son. You just killed the biggest deer you've ever killed with your bow." And when I got home, finally grabbed a hold of them horns, I knew I just completed a year-long quest, you know. This is what I've been dreaming. I was dreaming about that buck every single night for a year straight. I finally got him.
Congratulations, Bill. That is one giant whitetail. Whitetail Addictions will be right back.
Justin Hollinsworth. I'm with Lone Wolf Custom Gear, and I've been a long-time Lone Wolf guy. I've been hunting out of the Quisto Series stands for almost 20 years now, and I was really excited this year with all of our new stand sticks, cameras, and now with our bow that Darton is designing and putting on for us. This is the new Lone Wolf Custom Gear Lobo. It is 33 inches axle to axle. It's got a 6-inch brace height. It's 80% let off. And with my whole hunting setup, we are shooting about 310 feet per second. Feels really good in the hand. It's got the same coating, the soft touch technology that is on our stands and sticks, along with everything that everybody's always come to know what Lone Wolf is all about. It is actually, I've been a little reluctant on shooting a different bow. I've only shot one manufacturer for probably the last 15 years, and I can tell you this bow is more forgiving, it's faster, my groups are tighter, and I'm really looking forward to hunting with it this year.
Welcome back to Whitetail Addictions. Our next whitetail addict has spent his life working the ground around the small farming community of Ashland, Illinois. This is another area where the cornfields stretch as far as the eye can see. It's also home to some great whitetail habitat. And Jim has been harvesting his share of the giant bucks this area has to offer.
2005 was one of the best seasons I ever had. And that was also the first year for Whitetail Addictions, and I was fortunate enough to get a kill on video of a real nice 10-point buck. It was respectable, scored like 165. And then that same year I bow killed my biggest buck ever, and it netted 180 and 6/8. And I thought that would be the best buck I'd ever have. And 2005 was a great year. 2006 could have been a lot better even, but there was some mistakes made on my part, and it didn't turn out quite like it's supposed to. But in anyway, I was still able to shotgun kill a nice 12-point buck that gross scored in the neighborhood of 170, a little over. I blew a super opportunity on a huge buck with my bow in 06.
On an evening hunt in late October, Jim was set up overlooking one of his food plots. Little did he know that this evening's hunt would be one that would haunt him for the next year of his life.
He came in at 20 yards, stood broadsides, and I just didn't allow for a limb being there, and I canted my bow and missed him. It's just one of those things. That's part of hunting. 2007, I was ready for that buck. I had patterned him, I'd seen him, I was ready for him. But again, that buck don't get old for no reason at all. He busted me. I know it was him in the bedding area walking in. I had a stand right on the edge of the bedding area, and I know it was him. It was in the dark one morning. So therefore, I quit hunting that stand. I found another good area, put up a stand, and that not a million, but a bunch of rubs, all in one area just not far from the bedding area, and I knew that it was him. So I put a stand there.
1 year later, and on the same farm, Jim has another encounter with the giant buck. This time, swirling winds tipped the buck off to Jim's presence, leaving our hunter unsure about his next move.
So then I didn't know what to do. I just started hunting in circles in that area. I had about 5 other stands out that just more or less encircled that whole area, and I just started hunting them. And on the 5th stand, that's when we had our encounter, and he came in and he never knew I was there that time.
After a year-long quest for this giant buck and having 2 close calls with him, Jim would finally get the chance he was looking for in early November. Unfortunately, the big buck made his final mistake before Jim had a chance to get his camera ready.
Well, this is the buck I missed last year. Well, I didn't actually miss. I grazed his brisket. And I got it all on video. Matter of fact, they've used it on Whitetail Addictions to show the downs and the ups and the downs, and that was the downs. That was my down last year. This is my up this year. I got him. 18 scoreable points. I don't have a clue what it's score, but it's a nice one in my book. The buck I killed in 2007 he's a buck of a lifetime. Everybody would be so proud of that buck. He was one of the few bucks that every time I saw him, I was nervous. I mean, and I've killed my share of deer, and I don't get buck fever. I just don't. But I guess I might have with him somewhat. He made me stutter even. But and I'm just tickled to death to have gotten him. The buck he deserves respect. I'm just a hunter. He was a super buck.
Congratulations on a true buck of a lifetime, Jim. Whitetail Addictions will be right back.
You know, there was a very valuable lesson to be learned from this week's show concerning mature whitetails. I think a lot of hunters have had the misconception that once you spook a mature buck, the game's over, and I just don't believe that that's the case. We saw 2 examples this week of 2 really big mature whitetails that even after being hit by non-lethal shots, they were both eventually harvested a year later on the exact same piece of property. A few weeks ago on episode 3, you saw Andre DeQuisto shave the hair off a 170 class buck and then relocate his stand 70 yards away and return 2 weeks later and harvest that same animal. Of course, the last thing you want to do is tip a big buck off to the fact that you're hunting him or make a bad shot on any animal for that matter. But these things do happen, and the worst thing that you can do as a hunter is give up on that deer.
chances are, even if you do spook a mature buck, he's not going to leave the area for good. So stay persistent, hunt hard, hunt smart, and you too might get a second chance at that buck of a lifetime.